You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the corruption detector, and this is your Red Pill News. We have had a busy day on the boards, guys. I'll do a separate video going over posts themselves. But first, I wanted to actually just go through the articles that our favorite anonymous poster threw at us in the last 24 hours. First of all, from humanevents.com, in reference to Ruth Bader Ginsburg, senators overlooked radical record of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. This is from August 23rd of 2005. Hypocrisy stands at the pinnacle of the sins that liberals most disdain. So it's fair game to compare the free ride they gave to U.S. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg with their searching the archives to pillory every word written by Supreme Court nominee John Roberts. Liberal commentators and U.S. senators who are salivating at the upcoming interrogation of Roberts never asked Ginsburg about her extremist views spelled out in her lengthy paper trail. The senators didn't have to do much research. I made it easier for them by publishing her words in my July 1993 Phyllis Schlafly report. I quoted extensively from her 230-page book called Sex Bias in the U.S. Code, published in 1977 by the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights. The purpose of this book was to show how the proposed Equal Rights Amendment, for which she was an aggressive advocate, would change federal laws to make them sex-neutral and eliminate sex-discriminatory provisions. Ginsburg called for the sex integration of prisons and reformatories so that conditions of imprisonment, security, and housing could be equal. She explained, if the grand design of such institutions is to prepare inmates for return to the community as persons equipped to benefit from and contribute to civil society, then perpetuation of single-sex institutions should be rejected. Can you guys imagine if we had gender-mixed prisons? How many rapes and assaults we would have on a regular basis? She called for the sex integration of Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts because they perpetuate stereotyped sex roles. Well, she's gotten her wish on that one. She insisted on sex integrating college fraternity and sorority chapters and replacing them with college social societies. She even cast constitutional doubt on the legality of Mother's Day and Father's Day as separate holidays. You gotta be kidding me. Ginsburg called for reducing the age of consent for sexual acts to people who are less than 12 years old. Disgusting. She asserted that laws against bigamists, persons cohabitating with more than one woman, and women cohabitating with a bigamist are unconstitutional. Wow. She objected to laws against prostitution because prostitution as a consensual act between adults is arguably within the zone of privacy protected by recent constitutional decisions. What about all the people who are out there living lives of forced prostitution? On the other hand, her view of the traditional family was radical feminist. She said that the concept of husband, breadwinner, and wife, homemaker must be eliminated from the code if it is to reflect the equity principle. And she called for a comprehensive program of government support childcare. Ginsburg wrote that the Mann Act, which punishes those who engage in interstate sex traffic of women and girls, is offensive. Such acts should be considered within the zone of privacy. I find that opinion offensive. She demanded that we firmly reject draft or combat exemption for women, stating women must be subject to the draft if men are. But she added the need for affirmative action and for transition measures is particularly strong in the uniformed services. An indefatigable censor, Ginsburg listed hundreds of sexist words that must be eliminated from all statutes. Among words she found offensive were man, woman, man-made, mankind, husband, wife, mother, father, sister, brother, son, daughter, serviceman, longshoreman, postmaster, watchman, seamanship, and to man a vessel. So essentially, Ruth Bader Ginsburg hates the family unit, the nuclear family, which I would argue is the foundation of a society. She even wanted he, she, him, her, his, and hers to be dropped down the memory hole. Wow, she's getting her wish on that one. They must be replaced by he, she, her, him, and hers, his, and federal statutes must use the bad grammar of plural constructions to avoid third-person singular pronouns. Not only did Ginsburg pass former President Bill Clinton's litmus test of being pro-abortion, but she was also on record as opposing what was then settled law that the Constitution does not compel taxpayers to pay for abortions. In her chapter in a 1980 book, Constitutional Government in America, she condemned the Supreme Court's ruling in Harris versus McRae and claimed that taxpayer-funded abortions should be a constitutional right. Disgusting! Oh my God! In a speech published by Phi Beta Kappa's Key Reporter in 1974, Ginsburg called for affirmative action hiring quotas for career women. Using the police as an example, she wrote, "Affirmative action is called for in this situation. It's too bad that Americans were denied the entertainment value of a C-SPAN broadcast of a Senate Judiciary Committee interrogation of Ginsburg about her out-of-the-mainstream views. But Republicans rolled over and Ginsburg was confirmed 97-3. God, Republicans, where the heck were you guys? Asleep at the wheel. Liberals are trying to make a federal case out of Roberts' membership or non-membership in the Federalist Society, but Ginsburg has been the general counsel for the American Civil Liberties Union, which, unlike the Federalist Society, litigates to bring about leftist and even radical goals." Tim Russert posed the pertinent question on Meet the Press after showing a clip of Clinton saying he would only appoint Supreme Court justices who believe in the constitutional right to privacy, including the right to choose. Russert asked, "Doesn't George Bush, as a Republican, have the same opportunities as Bill Clinton, the Democrat, to put on the court people who share his philosophy?" I would say that he certainly did, but I'm almost more grateful that H.W. Bush, wasn't able to do that, because that may have not allowed us the opportunity that we see ourselves having right now. Next, in another article from a post from Axios, Trump says appointing acting cabinet heads grants more flexibility. President Trump told reporters outside the White House on Sunday that he's in no hurry to replace his acting cabinet secretaries with formal replacements, saying, "I have acting, and my actings are doing really great. I sort of like acting. It gives me more flexibility. Do you understand that?" Why it matters. Trump's Attorney General, Secretaries of Defense and Interior, EPA head, and UN ambassador are all working in acting capacities despite being Senate-confirmed positions. The appointment of Matthew Whitaker as acting Attorney General in particular came under fire as potentially unconstitutional, even from conservative legal scholars like John Yoo. And the Washington Post reported this week that Patrick Shanahan's position as acting Defense Secretary could also be constitutionally murky. Furthermore, Trump, who campaigned on draining the swamp, faced criticism for his acting secretary's lobbying ties. So, there you go. When you have an acting position rather than someone who had to go through the confirmation process, they know that they only have a finite time, so they know that they can get a lot more done because they don't have that hanging over their heads. Excellent. Now, in an article from The Guardian, a constitutional crisis. The CIA turns on the Senate. This is a very pertinent article in today's world, especially if you saw my last report. This is from September 10th, 2016. It was 11 p.m. in the chill of January, but Daniel Jones needed a run around the Capitol. During the winter of early 2014, Jones's only chance for serenity was these late hours. The CIA was demanding his boss, Senate Intelligence Committee Chairwoman Dianne Feinstein, fire him. Feinstein's Republican colleagues, once supportive of Jones, were demanding he testify. Testimony was treacherous. Sheldon Whitehouse, a Rhode Island senator and former federal prosecutor, warned Jones that asserting his rights against self-incrimination or seeking a lawyer's counsel could give committee Republicans a political lever against his highly controversial work. The CIA would soon formally insist that the U.S. Justice Department actually prosecute Jones, the Senate staffer who had devoted over 6 years of his life to investigating the CIA's infamous post-9/11 torture program. Jones, a former FBI counterterrorism analyst, wanted to testify. The CIA had pushed him past the point where he could back down. Its lies, documented in a 6,700-page secret report which Jones was constantly rewriting that winter, were compounding. To Congress, to Barack Obama, to George W. Bush, to the press, to even the public. The lies were not random misstatements. They were directional, in the service of covering up the brutality of what it did to at least 119 terrorist suspects, some clearly innocent. It held in a global network of secret prisons. Jones was on the verge of exposing the cover-up. As he saw it, the personalized intensity of the CIA's attacks on him and the unprecedented steps they were taking validated the accounts he had compiled after combing through over 6 million classified CIA documents. Less than a year had passed since the CIA had communicated to the Senate that its exhaustive torture report, drawn from millions of the agency's own documents, was significantly incorrect. Less than a year had passed since Jones, unbeknownst to the CIA, had locked into committee safe crucial portions of one such record called the Panetta Review, in which the CIA had come to the same conclusions about torture as Jones had. But now the agency was letting the committee know it was not playing around, and that it was coming for Jones itself. During the hearing, Mark Udall, a Colorado Democrat, lit into crass. Unexpectedly, Udall mentioned the existence of the Panetta Review in public for the first time, demanding the disclosure of the document. Among the reasons for Udall's fervor, in August 2013, after the CIA had condemned the committee report in contradiction of the Panetta Review, its former chief lawyer Stephen Preston told Udall in writing that the agency provided the committee with inaccurate information related to aspects of the torture program, a major point the CIA was now disputing. Unbeknownst to Jones, Udall, or Feinstein, the public reference to the Panetta Review so alarmed the CIA as to prompt a milestone event in its history. Since 2009, the CIA had maintained a firewalled network on which the Senate could view internal documents relevant to its torture inquiry. It was known as RDINet, for rendition, detention, and interrogation. By mutual agreement, the CIA was not supposed to access the Senate side of the network for any reason aside from Pkwy IT help. But at least 5 agency officials would surreptitiously transgress the network firewalls, view the Senate investigators' work, and reconstruct Jones's emails. The rationale, established in a subsequent internal investigation, was to determine if the Senate deliberately exploited an evident flaw in the architecture of the network to digitally acquire the Panetta Review, which they did not want the Senate to have. It was an extreme step. After Congress overhauled the CIA in the 1970s, the agency was not supposed to spy on Americans domestically except in extremely circumscribed circumstances. Now it was turning its spy work onto the elected officials tasked with overseeing it. All right, the next article from the New York Times is essentially a summary of that super long article. I'm not going to get into all of it because it's still pretty long. But basically, the important takeaway is the report. The report by the agency's inspector general also found that the CIA officers read the emails of the Senate investigators and sent a criminal referral to the Justice Department based on false information, according to a summary of findings made public on Thursday. One official with knowledge of the report's conclusions said the investigation also discovered that the officers created a false online identity to gain access on more than one occasion to computers used by the committee staff. The CIA was willing to not only spy on their overseers, but they also lied about it. And then they tried to destroy a man's career because they wanted to shift blame. It was John Brennan who did it. It was the Obama administration, the White House itself, that stonewalled the investigation and that stood up for the CIA. And the point of this whole thing is, if they were willing to do this for a report that they didn't want to come out, what would they be willing to do? Not only that, I think they learned from their mistakes here. They did it themselves. So what did they do this time? Let's go talk about the Post. This is Post 2657. The illegal surveillance of Congress, the press, and Senate Intel Committee. When will the public discover that Ted Cruz was also illegally surveilled pre-POTUS Republican nomination? CIA illegal surveillance, members of Congress. CIA illegal surveillance, members of the press. CIA illegal surveillance, Senate Intel Committee. Who ordered the surveillance? John Brennan. What justification was provided to authorize surveillance of elected officials? They said that they wanted to see who went and stole the document, even though they had clearly left the document in the Senate side of the server themselves. Surveillance falls under the scope of FISA warrant or internal to department or outsourced to Five Eyes. It was outsourced to the Five Eyes because they did not want to get caught doing it themselves this time. Reality check. Friend or foe, we all spy on each other. Should we be spying on ourselves? Should we be tasking others to spy on ourselves in order to avoid U.S. law? Was Five Eyes established and designed by the Intel Committee as a back-channel surveillance apparatus to avoid domestic law? I do not know the answer to. What keylogs exist to monitor Five Eyes Intel collection? What ability do former government officials have regarding ability to access classified level Five Eyes offshore data? How did HRC gain access to highest classified SAPs, closed access systems, and able to transfer to remote home server? Question above should scare every single American. How did China locate primary CIA assets within China? By accessing Hillary's server. Money buys power. No punishment for Brennan by Hussein administration regarding surveillance of Senate, etc. Logical thinking. Why? Let's check out this McClatchy article. And this is just talking about how the Justice Department declined to pursue allegations against the CIA because the Obama administration, Obama himself, stood up for the CIA. Why, you might ask? Probably because Obama himself is CIA. He was nurtured by John Brennan. John Brennan and him had a very close relationship. Justice Department declines to pursue. Fake news media limits exposure to public. When did Snowden breach NSA and publicly cripple intel gathering ability of the NSA? Was the NSA targeted? Yes, they were. Where did Snowden work prior to NSA contractor? Except he was previously employed at the CIA. What senior level government CIA official received Snowden for NSA contractor off-tar position? I don't know the answer to that one. Post-public release of classified NSA Pro Uranium-1. Where is Snowden today? What country was involved in Uranium-1? Russia. If real target country was Venezuela or Ecuador, why didn't Snowden take a direct flight from Hong Kong to those locations? How many direct flights run daily from Hong Kong to Venezuela and Ecuador? If Snowden was CIA, NSA, would he not understand simple logic? Going public prior to end destination safety would limit active passport travelability due to block dereg. He would definitely know that he would be blocked from traveling any farther. Why wouldn't Snowden? And I always thought that was weird. Why wouldn't Snowden publicly release info after he already was safely at final destination? Why then would Snowden route through Russia? Probably because he was going to Russia. Was Russia the final destination? Was Russia the true destination? Yes. Could Snowden be seen releasing classified programs intel from inside of Russia? What role did Brennan play in the Snowden leaks regarding NSA? Perhaps Brennan put Snowden onto exactly what needed to be released. What was Brennan's background regarding Saudi Arabia? He had a very close relationship with Saudi Arabia. Does the CIA hold blackmail on political leaders? Yes. Does the CIA protect those who protect them? Yes. Why are ex-CIA contractors running for office? Because they are still in the CIA, and the CIA wants them in those positions of power so that they can actively maintain influence. How many ex-CIA contractors are currently in office? Hello, this is Abigail Spanberger. Once an agent, always an agent. And let's go and let's take a look at Abigail Spanberger. Meet former CIA spy Abigail Spanberger, who got her resume declassified to run for Congress. So Abigail Spanberger was recruited when she was in college. She spent 4 years training. She got her offer in 2002. She kept it secret from most people, she said. She said she had disguises and a cover story. She worked around the globe. She doesn't give any details because the CIA won't let her release it. She still is a CIA agent. She is now in government, in elected government. She's there to usurp the president. That's her only reason for being there, to spy, to usurp, to report. Spanberger also worked as a substitute English teacher at a Saudi Arabia embassy school. The Republican Political Action Committee, known as the Congressional Leadership Fund, ran ads claiming she worked at a school that produced some of the world's most dangerous terrorists. Maybe she did. The Postal Service said the unredacted document that included Social Security numbers and health information was released by mistake in response to a Freedom of Information Act. As a former CIA officer who worked terrorism cases, I find it particularly disgraceful that they would try and make up that some sort of leap of a claim that I was in fact a long-term substitute teacher for a bunch of kids, she said in response. She grew up in Virginia, so it's no surprise that she's in the CIA. Her family might be CIA. And then it goes on to glorify the fact that women are running for office, but the real story here is that she's CIA and she's now in elected office. All right, lastly, I have one more post that I want to go over. Right here, post 2659. It's an article that I was actually going to discuss on Saturday during the live stream, but I ran out of time. Q posts it and says, get in line. Get in line, why? Because Alan Dershowitz has secret emails about underage allegations and will put prominent people in handcuffs. In an interview Thursday morning with Good Day New York, Alan Dershowitz pushed back against allegations that he had relations with underage girls through billionaire-convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. He said he is being framed and has emails that will put prominent people in handcuffs. There are emails so far that are secret, but that prove not only that I was framed, but who framed me, Dershowitz said. It names names. These people are going to go to jail once these emails come out because this was a total frame-up for financial reasons, and I can prove it and will prove it. Have me back on the show when the emails come out. Boy, it will be so interesting because there will be prominent people in handcuffs. Prominent people in handcuffs once these emails come out. Look, as to the first woman who accused me, her own lawyer admitted in front of witnesses that she was wrong, just wrong, that I couldn't have been in the places, he said. The second woman, he said, is a woman who wrote to the New York Post claiming she had videotapes of Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Donald Trump having relations with underage girls. The New York Post said, "We don't believe you." They wouldn't even publish her story, but she's one of the people. Well, I have a newfound respect for Alan Dershowitz, and I understand now why he has been so pro-President Trump, and he has been on the talk shows sticking up for him because he's probably already given this information to the president, and you better believe that the president is going to act on it. Well, I think that's a good space to sign off for the evening. I want to thank everyone for joining me. We're going to go over some more of these posts tomorrow, but in the meantime, I hope everyone has a good day. I wish you all the best. Thank you once again for joining me. I am Red Pill 78, the corruption detector. Good luck, everyone, and God bless.